In this tutorial today, we're going to run through how you can set up an AI voice agent. So think of a receptionist, but without needing a person on the end of it. They can answer all the questions your customers have on a regular basis, or if they don't have the answer, they can pass it through to a real person. But that frees up time for you, your team, or your client's team. If this is your first time on the channel, then welcome. My name is Jamie, and I run social media channels here on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram, as well as running a free school community to get people started with using AI.
Hi, this is Jim's Diner. Sophie speaking. How can I help you?
Oh, hi, sorry, who's that speaking?
I'm Sophie, the voice assistant at Jim's Diner. How can I assist you today?
Hi, my name's Jamie. I'm looking to make a booking at your restaurant, but before I do that, I just want a bit of information about what sort of, what food you do, what the cuisine type is.
We offer the finest British fine dining cuisine, with all produce sourced from the UK. Our meals are high welfare, organic, and non-GM. Would you like to proceed with a reservation?
So the basic flow of this process is not too difficult. We want a customer to be able to call us up. We're going to use VAPI voice agent. The voice agent will handle the call and will respond to the customer, and we'll have this data flow where the customer gives information and then VAPI responds, and then we've got this kind of loop here. There's lots going on in the background of VAPI, but we're not really worried about that at the moment. Eventually VAPI will then close off the call, and once the call is closed, it will then pass that data across to Make. Make will then handle the information and we'll do one of two things. It will definitely do an update to Airtable from Make. So Make will say to Airtable, here is the call log, this person's made a call, now update it. And then the second one it might do is it might say, oh, and this person's also made a booking. So if they did make a booking, then this one will happen too, but either way, this one will definitely happen. So when we're thinking about what we need to achieve, there are a couple of different parts that we need to be involved in. So one of them is the behavior, style, personality, which we can add into VAPI. One of them is how to answer questions about the restaurant. One of them is how to create reservations. We need to think about the rules and how to handle issues. And then finally, we need to think about call analysis and data extraction into Make and the LLM provider model settings. All of that is kind of fairly standard. We can do it quite quickly. Once we've done it, we don't need to mess with any of this. And then the URL to send that data to Make. For Make itself, we really need to focus on receiving that VAPI data. We're then going to send the information from Make, as I said, into the Airtable records. And then we also need a decision module to decide. And then finally on Airtable, we will then be receiving the Make data and creating a call record for definite and possibly the Airtable data. So the setup process I suggest we follow is step one is to create the AI agent in VAPI first. That gives us an understanding of how the agent works. We're then going to go on and create a connection in make.com so we can test whether or not we've got the connection between AI agent VAPI and Make working correctly. Assuming that all of that works correctly, we'll then review the data which is sent into Make. That will then give us an information understanding of what data we need to then store in Airtable. And then we need to create the databases in Airtable. Once we've created both of the databases, we'll then go on and create the full flow. We'll then troubleshoot if there are any issues, and then finally sort of an extra step which we won't do in the video, but we could then implement or expand beyond this basic setup that we're starting with today. So starting with VAPI, Voice AI for Developers, it is a super simple, really convenient process to get started. You don't have to be a developer, so if you are a fairly techie business owner, you don't want to pay for a developer to come and do this for you. You could probably do this yourself. I would say that the actual setup process is quite simple. What I'll say is that where you will probably start to find it is tricky is in the granularity and the getting not just a basic setup working, but getting the really advanced setup working. So we can click here, try for free, or we can go to the dashboard if we're already logged in. When you come through to the dashboard for the first time, you will see there are a number of buttons on the left-hand side here. You've got the overview of the whole application, and then the platform, you've got assistants, phone numbers, files, tools, blocks, squads, and then the voice library. We now want to click on Create Assistant here, and we will start the process. Up here, we can choose to give our assistant a name, and we can choose one of the quick start templates here, appointment setter, customer support, inbound, Q&A, or game NPC. However, although appointment setter is probably the closest to what we're going to use, we're going to stick with blank template. Let's go ahead and give this a name now. And then we will go down here and we will choose to create assistant. Once we're onto the main page, you will see here we've got all the different assistants that we'll have. So at the moment we've only got the one, which is Jim's Diner, and then we've got the create assistant to create a second one, and we've got the title of a current one with the assistant ID. Over here we've got talk with assistant, which we'll come on to later, the cost of this model, how much it costs per minute, and the latency. And then we have here the model transcriber voice functions advanced and analysis, which we will come on to bit by bit in a moment. The first thing we have here is the first message. The first message is what the AI will say to our customer when they call up. For example, we could have, "Hi, this is Laura at Jim's Diner. How can I help you today?" For me, I'm going to use OpenAI, and then I'm going to change this model here. I'm going to change it to 4.0 mini cluster. It's both the fastest and the cheapest. And right now we just want to get started and test it out, which is good. The knowledge base we will leave. We're going to leave the temperature. So the temperature is basically saying how much variability do we want, and you can click over the info here to see. So it's used to control the randomness of the output. When you set it higher, you'll get more random outputs. When you set it lower towards 0, the values are more deterministic. So for example, if you always want the AI bot to answer the same sort of way and make it seem more obviously a bot, but at the same time probably a little bit safer, set the temperature lower. If you want it to seem more natural and real, then set the temperature higher, but obviously bear in mind that you might get some kind of crazy answers, or more crazy answers than you would otherwise. Some tokens here. So this is the maximum number of tokens that the assistant will be allowed to generate in each turn of conversation. So think of this like this is the length of the sentence, the maximum length of the sentence that the AI bot can speak before pausing. So this is a system prompt. What I'm going to do for the system prompt is I'm going to paste my own prompt into here now. If you want a copy of this prompt, then head to the link below where you can join our free community, and there is access in the community to all the different templates to create this app, including the prompt and even a speedy process for getting up and running, which I'll talk through at the very, very end as well. So you can see now that I've pasted in my prompt here, and it's a very, very detailed prompt, which again, you can grab if you go to our community link below. Next, we want to go into the transcriber section here, and we are going to leave everything. So we've got deep gram, we've got English and Nova 2. I'm going to leave all of that alone. We don't need to change any of that. And then we'll go into the voice section here. With the voice providers here, you can use a number of different providers and obviously lots of different voices that go with it. I would recommend that you have a play around with this. I have an ElevenLabs account, so I generally use ElevenLabs. And with the voices, I have preferred voice because where I'm working, which is primarily with UK clients tend to want a British voice on the end of the phone for their customers. And so what I did was I went into ElevenLabs, I had a play around, I listened to all the different voices. And if you can't find the voice that matches up what you're interested in here, what you can do is you can go into ElevenLabs, choose to add the voice ID manually, paste the ID here. So for example here, if we wanted a young British English woman, well-spoken, something like this.
Hello, I'm Felicity. I'm a young but very well-spoken English voice.
Then we can use this voice here, and what we can do is we can click view, copy ID, and we go back into VAPI, and then we can choose add voice ID manually and paste. Now obviously, if you're not working primarily in the UK, or you want a voice which doesn't sound particularly British, then you can go back to ElevenLabs or wherever else you want to go and test out the different voices. Moving on down, we can then look at the background sound. So for example, we can choose, do we want a background sound? So we can have default, office or off. I'm going to leave it as default. I do want a little bit of background sound, but I don't really want an office because it's more of a diner. So then we come down onto the options here. So leave off filler injection enabled and leave off batch handling enabled for now. I don't really like making the bot say, yeah. I mean, try it if you want. I found it was doing it far too much for my liking. Again, test, play, you can't go wrong until you deploy it. Obviously, once you're ready to deploy, make sure you're happy and you've got it all right. With stability, I would leave stability about 0.5. I'm going to set this down to about 0.2. For style exaggeration and optimizing and use speaker boost, I'm going to leave all of these as the default. So the next section that we're on now is functions, and in functions is what it says on the tin. So you can add in different tools here. So tools are a way that you can enable your voice bots to perform certain actions. So you can set up predefined behaviors. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but we will go into it in a later video. And then predefined functions, which are already in here. So we don't want to use the dial keypad for this one, but we do want to use the enable end call function. So we'll turn that one on. That will then mean that the assistant can end the call from its side. Otherwise, we are stuck with potentially an endless loop. If the customer for some reason doesn't hang up or thinks they've hung up but hasn't properly hung up, then you've kind of stuck on that call and you're burning through credits, which is not what you want. We're not going to do any custom functions in this tutorial today, so we can skip on to the advanced tab. When we get into the advanced tab, you can see the number of different sections here. So first of all is privacy. So HIPAA compliance would be if you're building an AI voice agent for health or medical, really. We're not really interested in that. We're just doing a restaurant today. Audio recording, so we're going to leave that ticked on, and video recording, obviously we don't need to leave that on. It's not a web call. Coming down to the start speaking plan. Again, this is just tweaking so that your AI voice bot sounds more realistic. So how many seconds do you want to wait before the bot starts speaking? So you can choose, is it just under half a second all the way up 5 seconds? That seems a little bit extreme. Maybe you want just slightly longer than the predetermined, so you might want half a second. So that's that half-second pause before they start speaking, so they're not talking over you and it becomes glitchy and horrible. Smart endpointing, I'm going to leave that turned off. On punctuation, seconds. So if, for example, the way in which the transcription works, if the transcription ends with a full stop from the customer speaking, then it's only 0.1 of a second because the AI has figured out, okay, that person's finished their sentence, they're finished speaking, I'm going to step in now. So that's generally a bit shorter. But again, you might want to just bring that up a little bit just to give it that slight pause. In real life, humans, we don't necessarily always respond absolutely immediately as soon as the other person's finished speaking. We normally sort of process that information, particularly if it's a question or if it's something we need to think about. On number of seconds, so minimum seconds to wait after transcription ends with a number. If the AI bot says to the customer, how many people is that for? And the customer says the word 3, as in it's 3 people I want the booking, then it will wait half a second in this instance for that. Again, you can tweak that as much or as little as you want. So now we're on to the stop speaking plan, and you've really got the number of words, the voice seconds, and then the back off seconds. So the first number of words is the number of words that the customer has to say before the assistant will stop talking. So we've got it set to 0 here. We might want it to be actually on, say, 3 words. So the customer might say, oh, actually, can I, or something like that. If they just say, oh, actually, the bot will carry on speaking because we've only hit 2 words. And generally speaking, 2 or 3 is a good place in my experience. But again, tweak it with your own customers. Voice seconds, this is the seconds the customer has to speak before the assistant stops talking. So if the customer speaks for 0.2 of a second continuously, then the AI assistant will stop, even if perhaps it hasn't hit a full 3 words. And then back off seconds is the AI assistant will stop speaking for a second, wait, and then if the customer doesn't carry on speaking, the AI bot will continue again. These settings are really finicky and really important to get right based on your own sort of local demographic, how your customers will speak to your client generally, just to try and understand that. Because if you ever phoned a voice AI agent, what you will find is this stop speaking plan is generally where you find the most glitchiness with the AI bot, because it's very difficult to actually pre-train an AI bot on how we as humans interact, and we understand whether or not someone is about to interrupt us but then realizes we're probably going to answer their question. We can kind of make that decision on the go. An AI bot can't. It has to just go by basic rules. Call timeout in seconds. So configure when the AI assistant should end the call based on silence. So I would set it to 30 seconds. I think if the call's been silent for 30 seconds, you probably can call timeout. And at the end of the day, if the person was actually, oh yeah, just hold on a moment, and for whatever reason goes off and comes back 40 seconds later and the call's gone dead, it's not the end of the world. They can always call back. You could set it to a much higher number if you want to. Maximum duration of the call is set to 1800. So that's like 30 minutes. I would say that's probably too long for a restaurant booking, but you can set it to whatever you want. Maybe you set it to 10 minutes or 600 seconds or something like that. Now we're going to move on to probably the most important part of this section here, which is the server URL. So this is going to be where we're going to put our HTTP post request. This is where we tell VAPI how to communicate with Make and then pass that information on to Airtable. So we'll come back to this later, but this is very important. Client messages, we don't really need any of these, but just leave function call in there for now, but we can remove the rest. We don't really want that. We're not too worried about that. That's not for what we're doing today. And then server messages, the only one we really need is the end of call report. So I'm going to just leave end of call report in there. Voicemail messages. So this is something that if we had an outbound call assistant rather than an inbound, obviously our AI agent is a receptionist. It's responding to people calling in. But if, for example, we actually had someone who was doing the outward bound dialing, was calling people up, asking them if they would like to make a reservation for the restaurant, for example, or we had a list of people who tried to call, couldn't, and then they've called back. If we call back and they don't pick up and it goes to their voicemail, we could have a voicemail message here. We obviously don't need that in this instance. And then end call message could be, let's just leave it as goodbye. Idle messages, this is up to us. We can then add something along the lines of, are you still there? Or let me know if there's anything you need, and we can add that in after perhaps 7.5 seconds. Let's put that up higher to say 15 seconds. So if we get to 15 seconds and nobody's responded, nobody's spoken, so it's halfway to the call being hung up, then they can say, let me know if there's anything you need. Maximum number of times idle message can be spoken during the call is 3. So if there's 3 times when they don't speak for 15 seconds for some reason, we can then ask the bot to say, let me know if there's anything you need. If after that third time there's a fourth pause of over 15 seconds, the AI bot won't say anything. It will just trick on until 30 seconds and then it will cut the call. Again, change these as appropriate for your use. And then finally, we've got the analysis tab at the top. For this tutorial, I'm not going to really go into the detail of the summary. This is to summarize the whole call. Secondly, we've got success evaluation. So this is to identify, do we think that the call was successful or not? So if, for example, it was a sales call, did we book a lead? Or if it was a return call to booking a reservation at our diner, was this successful? We could look at all the different success metrics and rubrics. We're not going to worry about that in this tutorial today, but instead what we will focus on is the structured data. So extract structured data from a call conversation, and we're going to just take out the information we need, and I'm going to use the following prompt. You will be given a transcript of a call and the system prompt of the AI participant. Extract the listed parameters. So the current date is date and current time is time. And we are using the curly brackets, so 2 curly brackets, date, 2 curly brackets, and then 2 curly brackets, time, 2 curly brackets. And this is set by VAPI, and this is the appropriate scheme. And finally down here where we see add property, we're going to want to add some properties, and we're going to want to think about the properties that we need to pass as a receptionist for a restaurant. So the first question is, was this call for a booking or not? And we're going to choose Boolean because we basically want it to be yes or no. This will help us later in the flow to determine whether or not we just need to log the call as a call, or whether we need to log the call as a call and we need to log a booking. And we'll choose mark as required because we must have that for every single one of our flows. And we can add a description which says, it was true if the reservation was requested by the user, otherwise it was false. So finally, the 4 things we need to add, because this is a restaurant booking, we need a booking name. So what the booking is going to be labeled under, so we can find it if somebody needs to call back and needs to change it. We want the booking date, we want the booking time, and we want the number of people. You could add further fields, for example, an email or a phone number to call the guest back, or it might be that they're going to book a specific room or a specific table number, for example. If we know they've added that, we could have a notes section where there's a specific thing that is relevant to this call. But for now, we're just going to keep it to these extra 4 things. So now I've added those in. So we've got the booking name, we've got the booking date, the booking time, and the booking guests. And we can see here that we've got the first one is string, the second one is a string, the third one is a string, but the fourth one is a number, because obviously we've just got the number of guests. And I've also added in the description. You can see here that I've also added in various little bits of information in terms of just to remind me what this variable does, how it works. Now that we've created our VAPI voice agent and we've set up the settings in the back end, what we're next going to do is create this flow in Make. So we can see here that we've got a webhook which is created, which will receive the data from the VAPI. We're then going to check, is there a booking or not? And either way, we've not got a filter here. So what will happen is this goes first, as it says there, and it will create a call record in Airtable. And then what will happen, Airtable will then pass to this variable here, the log ID, so the ID of the record that has just been created. We need that because we have to pass that across from this one up here down to this one here. It's a bit annoying, but it's just the way it is. And then if there was a booking made, so for example here we've got a filter set to if there is a booking yes, then what will happen then is the call log ID will then be pulled from call log ID down to call log ID, and then it will pass that into here to be able to get this record and reference it, and then we will add the information about the actual booking itself. So let's go and now create our whole make scenario from scratch. So here we are, we've started with a new make scenario, and at the moment we've got run once in every 15 minutes. We can ignore all of this down here. We can just click on the plus, and the first thing we want to do is add a webhook, and we want to choose custom webhook. So we can click here and choose custom webhook, choose a hook, and it doesn't really matter which one, as long as we've got one. We can click add, we can create a new one here, that's fine, there you go. And you will see now we've got this URL and we want to copy this address to the clipboard. We want to head back into VAPI and we're going to choose the advanced tab here, and we want to then scroll all the way to the bottom to where the server URL section is, and we are going to paste our webhook in. We don't need a server secret in this instance, and again we just want to check that we've got server messages as end of call report, which is good. What we now need to do is to click publish. Now if we choose talk with the system, we can then check that the connection between VAPI and Make is working with that webhook.
Hi, this is Laura at Jim's Diner. How can I help you today?
Hi Laura, yeah, my name's Jamie. I'd like to make a booking for 4 people tomorrow at 6 p.m, please.
Thank you for that information, Jamie. Just to confirm, you'd like to book a table for 4 people tomorrow at 6 p.m. Are there any special requirements we should be aware of, such as dietary restrictions or accessibility needs?
No, nothing else.
Great. Just to summarize, I have you booked for 4 people tomorrow at 6 p.m. I will send you a confirmation email shortly.
Okay, so we've made a call and now we've got some logs here. So you can click on the logs if we want, and you can see that everything's working. So back into Make, the most important part here is that we've now successfully determined the data, which is exactly what we wanted. So going back to our checklist, we wanted to create the agent in VAPI, which we've done. We then wanted to create the connection to make.com, which we've just done. And now we just need to review the data, which is sent to make.com. So what we'll do is we'll run once, we'll then go back, we'll then make another call.
Hi, this is Laura at Jim's Diner. How can I help you today?
Okay, so we've cut that call off now. We go back to Make and we can see now we have got one bundle output. We can see it's been sent through, all the information is there, and that's how it's structured. We can carry on. So now we can confirm that the data that we've reviewed has worked and is all good. We now need to work out what data we want to store into our Airtable records. So when we come into Airtable, we'll go to create new and we'll go from scratch. We've just got untitled base name at the moment, so let's call it AI voice agent or whatever you want. And here, first of all, we're going to rename the first table as call log. Now there are quite a lot of different headings that we want to add in here, so I'm going to do those and then I will talk through it in a second. What I've done now here in call log is I have added in a call ID, which is a single line text. I've then created a phone number field, a call time field, a call duration, a call cost, an end reason, a call summary. Just note that call ID is a single line text, phone number is a single line text, call time is a date field, call duration is a time, call cost is a money, and end reason is a single line text, with call summary is a long text field and reservations is a linked field. We'll come on to that later. We then need to set up a reservations table, and in reservation we're going to have a similar thing, which is going to be the call ID, phone number, the name, date, time, number of guests. Now we've got our table set up in Airbase, we now need to connect Airbase to Make. So we can click plus record, choose Airtable, and we're going to choose create a record. Select the correct base and the correct table, so we want voice agent and call log to start with, and then we're going to populate the record with all the information coming out from the webhook. So again, to see inside the webhook response, we see here we've got bundle 1 with a message. We've got all the different information. If you're unsure, you can see it either in here or when you go in to create your second Airtable information. But an important part is the analysis section and indeed the structured data. So you can see here, these are all the things that we created back in VAPI. So if I go back to VAPI and we go to the analysis section, you can see here we've got all of the different names of the different things that we created. And indeed, you can then see over in Make that they are the same things that we created down here. So into Airtable, and we've selected the correct base, the AI voice agent, and the correct call log. Call ID, if you're not sure, you can just search under here and you should be able to find it quite quickly. Here we've got call and then ID, so we would choose call ID. Phone number, for now we'll leave phone number blank because we haven't actually made a real call from outside, we've just done it from inside our app. Call time will be the created at by the call created at, so we want this one. Call duration, again, if we search duration, we'll see that we have got the artifact messages duration, so we want this one. You'll see that we've got the messages duration, and this is the one we want here. Call cost, messages cost, end reason, here we have ended reason, and then the call summary we have again either summary or messages analysis summary. They both are the exact same thing. We will leave reservations blank because even though reservations links back, we don't actually want to do that right now, so we'll just choose save. We're now going to save the Airtable. Let's give it a name, so we'll call it VAPI AI voice agent v1. Save it again. So now we've got a flow where the webhook is called, and we will then create a record in this Airtable here. Next, we're going to just test that to make sure that works. So we will run once again, go back to VAPI with the assistant, and we'll make a call.
Hi, this is Laura at Jim's Diner. How can I help you today?
Can you make a reservation for 2 people tonight at 8 p.m. So we can see that the bundle's been sent, and indeed Make has received it. Here we go, it's Laura from Jim's Diner took a reservation. We've got all the information here in the bundles, and now we can check whether or not Airtable received it. And indeed it has output a bundle. Coming through into Airtable, we can now see that the call ID has been registered, the call time and duration is here. We've got the call cost, the reason, so customer ended the call, which is good. And then we've got a call summary up here. At present, we have nothing in the reservations itself, even though a reservation was made, and obviously there is no reservation backlinks yet. So that all works really well. The next part of the process that we need to do, as we can see from here, so we've now created this record here, we've got this flow working, we now need to create this router, and then we need to create the booking record next. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can click on here and we can choose add a router. And the second thing we're going to do, we are going to add in, if we go straight to Airtable, I'll just explain that we can then create a record. And again, we want the same base, but we want a different table. We want the reservations table this time. And some of this is going to be the same. So for example, the ID will be the same. So call ID, the phone number, again, we don't have that yet. The reservation name. Now these all comes under, as I showed you before. So we've got message analysis, structured data. So the booking name and the date is under structured data. So booking date, time, booking time, number of guests, booking guests. And this time, crucially, is where we want to add in the extra piece of information, which is the record ID from the previous record. Now, what you'll find here is if you scroll down, is unfortunately there are no variables other than the webhook available to us. But we need to get the information of this new record that's been created. So if we save what we've done so far and save the whole process, this is why we then need to create a set variable, call this variable name, call log ID, and we will then pass that ID into there and save it as that. And we'll click here and choose add module, and then we will get a variable. So this time we get the variable, and the variable name that we want to get is the call log ID. So we copy that, paste in here, save, and press save. So if we choose run this module only, we should see that call log ID is currently empty, which is good, but we do get a bundle out, which is really good. So now we have that full flow, and that should now completely run. And then we can go back into our Airtable here, and we can choose the record ID is the call log ID, and then we can save it, save the whole function, and we basically have the whole process set up. The only thing that we're missing is a filter on here. So we need to set up a filter, and we want to call it booking. We want booking, and then we need to come down here to Boolean operators here, equal to, and we want to say true. Then we want it to allow this to flow. If it doesn't equal true, then there's no booking been made on the call, so it will just end after it completes this first part, which is to record the log. Save once more. One of the things I didn't mention earlier is that the date needs to be set in a certain way, so we have to use a special function which is called parse date. So we type parse date, open bracket, before we put the red text in. Then after we've chosen our relevant value, we then want a semicolon. Here it's giving you the information, and it will show you the format that this function needs to be. So we now need to tell it, do we want it year, hyphen month, hyphen date, or what's the function we want? Indeed, we do want that. So let's do that now. So semicolon, year, hyphen month, hyphen date, close bracket, and press save, and save the whole function. And if we run it one more time, I've got some existing data, so I'm going to just go with that. This is the last call that we've just made. We can now see that we've got the bundle has come through from VAPI. First, it went up here. It created a new call log. That call log then passed the information here with this record ID. We then got to this checkpoint here, and structured data booking was true. So the booking was made on that call. So it continued. It's now pulled that variable from here, which is indeed the correct record. It's then passed this information into Airtable. Airtable has then taken this information and has created a new record and has even linked it back. So if we go into our Airtable now, we should be able to see this. And indeed we can. So here we've got the call ID, and we've got the call time, duration, cost, end reason. And then what we've got here is now the linked record. So we can actually click on this record, and we can see it here. Or we can go through to reservations, and we can see that we've now got a reservation created under my name with the date and time of the reservation for the number of guests and the calls. So coming back now to our process, you can see here we've already created the AI agent in VAPI. We've connected it. We've decided which data comes through. We've identified the data we need to store in Airtable. We've created those Airtables. We've then created a full flow, and we've done a little bit of troubleshooting along the way, ensuring that the date format is correct, for example. And now the final process would be then to implement this and even to expand it and to add on different parts. If you want to get started really quickly today, jump into our AI community where I have actually provided templates. Now, the next part of this video is I'm going to show you just how quickly you can get up and running with this if you download the templates and you've got the prompt as well available to you. So I'll just show you how to do that right now. If you've signed up for the group, then when you come into the group, you'll actually see really simply that you have all the information in here for getting started, as well as the templates, which you'll find down here. So all you need to do is download the first two templates to your hard drive, and then the second two are links which you can click through to. What you'll want to do is go on into make and create a new scenarios here. All we need to do is come down to the more button here and choose import blueprint, where you'll import the first blueprint, which is called 1, .vapi AI agent make flow and choose save. What we want to do then is click on the webhook, choose add and save. We then want to copy the address to clipboard. We then want to create a second new scenario in a separate tab. And we'll do the same thing again. We'll click more, import blueprint. This time we'll choose the to.createVAPI agent from make file, choose save. And then what we want to do is come into the tools here and we want to scroll down to the bottom to the make webhook and we want to paste the webhook in here and choose save. And then we want to go back in and we need the API key. So what you next need to do is go back to your VAPI and you want to come down to here, whatever yours is called, it'll probably be your email address, and you want to click on here and then you want to go to API key. Then you're going to click the copy ID from your private key. Make sure it's the private key and not the public one. You don't want the public one. And you come back into make and you're going to paste that in the space here. Choose your restaurant name, whatever you want to call it, it's fine. You can change this later anyway. Then your first message, again, you can paste your first message in here. So whatever, again, you can leave that as first message and change it later when you're in VAPI. Click save. And then we want to click run once. And what you should get here is a green tick and a number 1. And in here you should see status code 201, which means it's worked, and then there's further data in here. Coming back into VAPI, if you go back to the assistance section, you should then see, as we've now got, we had Jim Steiner before, we've now got AFF, AI voice agent, now created. When we go into the AFF AI voice agent, we should be able to then see down in advanced that our webhook from make is pre-populated, which is exactly what we want. We can see here the end of call report is selected, which is good. When we come back to the model, you can see here, this is where we need to now copy the prompt from the sheet. If you have put a first message in from make, then that will be pre-populated here. Otherwise you can do that in this section. So now the last things we need to do is take the prompt. So if we go back to the community and you'll see here that there is the full agent prompt. So click on that and it will take you through to the prompt where you can just copy it and you can just paste it into here like this, and then you'll see that it's been completed. Obviously this isn't perfect and it's not correct for your company or your client's company, but what you can then do is use this as a structure and edit it as appropriate. Obviously the location is not going to be 123 Beautiful Road for your restaurant. You can then come through, check in the transcriber, Deepgram, EN and Nova 2 is correct. Voice, we're using ElevenLabs here. You may not want to, you may want to change that. Same for voice, you may want to change to your own choice of voice. I recommend you have a play. One thing that may happen is when you go into analysis, you may find that the current date and current time are missing the variables. This is a issue with the way in which make sends the information. So you may just need to do 2 curly brackets, date, and 2 curly brackets, time, and then that will work. Finally, once you've done all of that, you need to click publish again, and then you can talk with the assistant. Before you talk with the assistant though, you want to go back to your make scenario and make sure this is running. Publish, talk with the assistant. Once you've completed that call, you'll find that this is completed, and then you'll want to go through, and the next step is to create the Airtable basic. Back in the templates, choose the Airtable copy base, and you'll see up here we've got copy base. We can click this, and once you click copy, it will then appear within your own area, and you'll then have the call log and the reservation available. You then need to come back into your make, and then you need to connect each of these 2 modules to your own Airtable, and you need to select the correct Airtable and then base and then table. This one is for the call log and then this one is for the booking log. Once you've connected your Airbase tables, you can then come back to your webhook and, if needs be, choose redetermine data structure, go back to VAPI, publish, talk with the assistant, and then you should get a confirmation. Another one should come up here in the white area and you should see the flow runs all the way through. And there you go. That is really how quickly you can do it. So if you've got templates, it will take you all of about 5 minutes to go from downloading the templates to installing them, changing your API keys and getting up everything running.